Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And back at it again is my buddy Nick as we keep going through time and doing our top 10 list for each decade of cinema. And we're going back to the 90s. We didn't have a famous TV show like BoJack, but we sure watched a lot of movies in the 90s, probably. And is it nostalgia? Or is it a great movie? We'll find out. But let's get things started. Nick, thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Shane.
So it's time to start with 1999, where there's a whole entire book about how this is one of the greatest film years in history. So, Nick, what's your number one?
My number one, oh boy, is I feel like you're gonna be like, what? My number one is Bowfinger with Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy. I mean, there were great picks. I mean, really, my top three were Galaxy Quest, Toy Story 2, and Bowfinger. And I every single person who loves the Matrix out there is going, what? But I just I love those three movies so much, and anybody who knows me knows that I love Star Trek. So the fact that Galaxy Quest got edged out of this one, but I love Bowfinger so much. It's so funny, and just Steve Martin has always had me from like when I was a kid and I saw The Jerk way too young, and just all of his other movies leading up to this one. It was inevitable that I was going to fall in love with it. Just so many hilarious moments with Eddie Murphy knowing what's going on, being paranoid. Keep it together, keep it together, keep it together. His obsession with showing it to the Laker girls. The fact that General Zod is the head of that Mensa unit and is trying to keep him sane. I'm blanking on his name right now, but the actor.
Terrence
But
Stamp.
yes, Terrence Stamp. He's
Yes.
the guy. Uh,
Kneel
his
before Zod.
his whole Bowfinger's whole entourage of people who work for him. The author who wrote the movie Chubby Ray. The name of the movie Chubby Ray. And they just need to get what's his face at the end to look at the camera and say, "Gotcha, suckers." It's just a freaking hilarious movie. 100% recommend it to anyone who has not seen Bowfinger. It's so perfect.
Oh, I enjoy Bowfinger a lot. And anything with Steve Martin and it's going to get my attention because, like, I have been listening to his little ditty from Only Murders in the Building from this season since they're filming a musical in this season, and he does this
Okay.
song, and it's so good. And
We've been
just
waiting for it to end before we jump into it.
well, I only have one episode left next week, so there
No,
you
I'm very looking forward to it.
go. But it's him and Eddie Murphy are so great, and it makes me sad that Steve Martin's basically like, this is my last thing. After this, I'm done. And it's just like,
All of our favorite people are getting old, retiring, and dying, and I hate it.
uh, Steve Martin's actually as old as his hair looks now.
I know he caught up.
But quick two honorable mentions are Eyes Wide Shut because Kubrick, Sixth Sense because boy is that terrifying and was Shyamalan supposed to be the next Hitchcock. But my number one is indeed The Matrix. I am
Okay, good. We're gonna talk about it.
I'm a huge sci-fi fan, and it's hard pressed to find a science fiction film that is as impactful as The Matrix in the past like 30 years. And it's just one of those kinds of films where the action incredible, the effects incredible, the direction incredible, the whoa incredible. I'm not gonna
There
say
is
Keanu
no
Reeves is
spoon.
I'm not gonna say Keanu Reeves' acting is amazing, but like
But it's
he
perfect
delivers.
for this movie.
Correct.
It's absolutely what this movie needed. That
Yes.
that unaware dope who is just learning this all as it goes, but he's also still got a little bit of competency to him. So like it makes sense that he can do these things. When I
I'm just
was
doing
because
this.
this that what it was 99. I don't know what year are we talking about. But when I was in a freshman in high school. This came out. Everyone got to see it. My parents would not let me see it. It was rated R. You can't see it. It's rated R. Fine. For the next 4 years, I'm like begging, please let me see this movie. Everybody has seen it 100 times. I pretty much feel like I've seen it already because they told me all about it. Finally, went to college, 2003. The first thing I did was find someone with that movie, and I watched the crap out of it. And then the best part, the sequels came out that year too. So I got to watch
There you
all
go.
three in one year. And boy, was the first one worth it. It was worth every bit of the wait. It was so good.
It's one of those quote unquote movies that ruined Hollywood, but because how much bullet time did we get?
Oh my gosh.
Things afterwards.
For the next 10 years, it was bullet time nonstop until the MCU came along and introduced cinematic universes and made them all forget about bullet time.
Yeah. It's just Lawrence Fishburne, amazing. Carrie-Ann Moss, amazing. Hugo Weaving.
Oh my gosh, Hugo Weaving, man.
Hate this place. I hate the smell of it. And just
it's the smell.
It's just, oh my God. It's just one of those amazing films that's going to live on for forever. And if Warner Brothers has anything to do with it, they're going to keep making them.
Oh, I don't even know. After the Resurrections, I couldn't even believe you if you told me they were making one next year. But I honestly, I think my favorite character in the movie is Joey Pants. Cypher is so freaking good. That scene where he's talking to the Smith and he's just like, ignorance is bliss. I just love it.
I just rewatched.
How could he be the one if he's dead?
Yeah.
So good.
I just rewatched Memento and just like, Lenny! It's just like, that was a time.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good in everything, but especially The Matrix. He's like deliciously evil throughout, and I love him in it.
So, now that we got past the greatest year of all time, apparently, in cinema, how about 1998?
1998. I'm gonna probably list off your pick as my honorable mention, and that's Saving Private Ryan, if I'm guessing correctly.
It is not. I'm not.
Oh, okay. I also have Truman Show as an honorable mention. I almost went with Truman Show as my pick.
You know what's funny? Those are my two honorable mentions.
Oh, nice. Well, there you go. We're simpatico once again. We got to go back. That's happened so many times where we've had either the same honorable mention or the same pick. But Truman Show would have been my pick if I had seen it recently. It's been probably 10 years since I have. So I just didn't feel good putting it on there at number one. And so in the end, the movie that I've seen more times than I could count made the list because it is one of my favorites and it definitely is deserving. And that's 1998's Disney's animated classic, Mulan. I absolutely adore this movie. It came out at just the right time for me. It was funny. It's another Eddie Murphy pick. Like it's 2 in a row. Eddie Murphy was really firing on all cylinders for me in the late 90s. So yeah, like he was hilarious in it. One of my favorite all-time things to text people is dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow. It's one of the funniest lines in cinema, let alone in that movie. But just like the story, like Mulan's overall story, it's done so well and it's really entertaining from start to finish. The music is fantastic. We're constantly singing those songs. And I just, as much as I wanted to not let nostalgia rule me in the 90s, we're hitting that prime. Every movie that's number one on my list is a movie that I've seen over 100 times. Like it's just,
there you go.
They're on repeat in the house since I was a kid. So
they all live rent free in your brain.
Sure do.
It just keeps going. So mine is, I legitimately probably can quote this from start to finish. And it's like my top 6 favorite movies. And it's The Big Lebowski.
Oh, nice.
because I am a huge Coen Brothers fan. This is my number one Coen Brothers movie. This is peak Coen Brothers comedy. To the fact that
Well,
like
that's just like your opinion, man.
it's just like, well, like that's just your opinion, man. It's just like,
You're gonna hate me. I've only seen this once, and it was like a decade ago.
well, every time you watch it from now on, it's just gonna keep growing on you.
I'm gonna think of
Um,
you.
it's one of those kinds of things where it's just like it's so quotable from start to finish. And every character leaves an impression, whether it's the fascist sheriff from Malibu or the teenager that they think stole all the money and has bad grammar, or even just like the Jesus, who's one of the most iconic minor characters in the history of cinema.
Who
This,
got a spin-off movie
yeah.
20 years later.
Later. um, just the cast is amazing. I will stand by this. John Goodman easy could have won Best Supporting Actor for 1998 for Walter Sobchak.
I saw the movie one time, still a character I know incredibly well because of just how impactful that was.
Dude, I could get you toe with nail polish, everything. The Supreme Court supports prior restraint. I'm gonna finish my coffee. I'm gonna finish my coffee. And Gutter Balls is one of the best sequences in the history of cinema. With just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in from Kenny Rogers, and it's just perfect. This silly, stupid porno spoof. Fever dream on drugs. It's just, and Jeff Lebowski, the dude. Jeff Bridges is like that is Jeff Bridges.
It is.
I'm convinced in real life that is Jeff Bridges.
No acting required. He just walked onto set that day and they were just like, that'll work wardrobe wise.
It's just like, and you saw me, some deadbeat, they could just pin it on, man. Just like, well, aren't you? Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop now, or I'm gonna just keep this movie for the rest of the episode.
Act 1, Scene 1, and action.
To 1997 to Titanic Land.
1997. Oh, that's a movie that came out that year. Yeah, you're right. I only saw that movie for the first time 2 years ago.
There you go.
And it was fine. Sorry for that hot take. This is another one. This is a year. Honestly, I only really had one choice. I have some honorable mentions, but only because one of which I really want to just everybody needs to see The Man Who Knew Too Little with Bill Murray. That movie's so great. I think it's hilarious. And then Air Force One, love Harrison Ford in it. It's a
Get off
great
my plane.
Get off my plane. And if we're lucky in Ahsoka, we'll get to see Xander Berkeley appear maybe next week. Who knows? But and then Men in Black, of course, is just a classic for me. But another Disney animated classic, Hercules.
You mean Huncules?
I mean Huncules. Oh, bless my soul. Herc was on a roll. And he is literally, Hercules was for a very long time in contention for my favorite Disney movie. It was Aladdin pretty solidly all through my childhood. And then Hercules came along and really got close to ousting Aladdin, but I think overall nostalgia beat him out for that one too. So, but I love the story. The music is so beautiful in this movie, and just I love the combination of the score with like the diva music. It's so like it shouldn't work, but it does. And it's like, what kind of music would we use for Greek gods? Like, it makes no sense. I don't even know what they're going to try and do with a live action remake of this. It's just, they can't even.
All I have to say is The muses better be the like most famous
It's Beyonce,
star-studded
Cynthia
crew.
Erivo,
Like
or they're gonna
like
go the Mulan route, and it's going to be so lame.
and no music.
No music,
We're looking at
lifeless.
you, Guy Ritchie. What are you gonna do?
Guy Ritchie, I liked his Aladdin, but we'll see.
We shall see.
But yeah, I love Hercules. The characters are great. It's low key our on deck costume idea for when we go to Disney World next. Like, we always go to the Halloween parties, and you can
Mhm.
dress up in Halloween costumes. So we're gonna do a family costume of Hercules. We're gonna do Hades, Hercules. My girls are gonna be Pain and Panic. It's gonna be great. Um, the and then like just the little jokes. This is one of those movies where the little jokes will get you. The kid yells, "Somebody call IXII," which is 911 in Roman numerals. When you hear him slurping the drink, and he looks down and he's drinking the Hercules drink, and he's got the Hercules shoes on, and Hades is just like, I am trying to plan the coup of the century, and you are wearing his merchandise. Thirsty?
If because like I'm just gonna say your pick gets 2 thumbs way up.
Yeah, right.
And like if James Woods wasn't off,
Being a little crazy nowadays.
I, he would have to be Hades again. Like,
Ugh.
have to. I heard rumors they want Bruce Campbell, which I'm like,
Oh, that
yes.
would be good.
So
That would be
that better
wild.
happen.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. There was a good stint of time where like you couldn't hear me not quoting this movie. Hey Mac, want to buy a sundial? Hercules is a very popular name. Remember when all the little girls were named, or all the little boys were named Jason, and all the girls were named Brittany?
Also, Danny DeVito
Oh,
is so
perfect. It's
good as
Phil.
Phil. And
Little Goat Man, as my kids call him.
if he's not in the remake, I don't even
See,
know
that's just
what
it.
to do.
You keep saying things that make sense, but like it's exactly what I don't want them to do if they make a remake. Like, don't just recast the same people.
They're just too iconic. Well, like who else are
They
you gonna
are.
get to
Just
be?
don't touch it. I think they
Who
should just
else are
not
you
touch
gonna
it.
get to play Phil?
I don't know.
But anyway, um, I love Hercules, and just this cast so perfect. The
It
music's
was.
great, and Meg is like 1A right below Belle for me.
Meg is a defining defining character in my young adolescent life. We'll just put it that way.
She's the coolest
She
of like
is.
all the Disney princesses or whatever. It's just like,
Yes.
and yeah, she's the cool one, and we
She's
appreciate
cool. Like, I would be totally good if she stepped on me at any point.
that.
I just want her to walk all over me and tell me I'm a bad boy.
Oh my.
I love Meg.
And now for something completely different.
Now you ready? There we go.
So my 2 honorable mentions are The Fifth Element, which, oh, do I love this crazy weird science fiction movie. And Jackie Brown, which I feel
I
like
love Jackie Brown.
one of the most underappreciated of Tarantino's movies. And
Yes.
boy, is that soundtrack so good. But I'm going with what should have won Best Picture in 1997, Titanic and James Cameron, which is LA Confidential.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love that movie. And the trio of Guy Pearce, Russell Crowe, and Kevin Spacey are so amazing in this movie. Russell Crowe really coming onto the scene in this film, and Guy Pearce. They got a couple Australians who are just like, who are these guys? Throw them in like 1950s LA. It's LA noir come to life. It looks amazing. There's so many good twists in this movie, and just like you do not see them coming. like I remember watching this for the first time and just jaw drop of just like, what? And just the cast from top to bottom. Speaking of Danny DeVito, what a year for
Hmm.
Danny DeVito in 1997.
He was on
Um,
fire.
and
He had
James
a good
Cromwell.
good run of years that year, that decade.
Yeah. James Cromwell, I love, and he's so great in that film as well. It's such a great like that 50 style noir where it's just like trade in like the dark, grimy, like New York shadows for like this bright LA. But like just the whole entire feel to it, it's so great. Love LA Confidential.
That is another one that I've only seen one time, and I definitely need to revisit. Like every time I think about revisiting it, I want to, and then something comes up or it's not streaming this particular week.
Mhm.
But it's like, I remember loving it so much. I need to rewatch it.
There we go. And we're off to 1996.
1996. Well, in my honorable mentions is where I'll mention my James Cromwell pick, and that's Star Trek First Contact. I of course couldn't. I surprisingly not even in my, it's my top three, but it's not even in my top two. Like
Mhm.
I love my number two pick, which is The Birdcage,
Nice.
and that one almost was my number one. But at the end of the day, once again, the movie that I've seen probably more times than any. mm, it's tough to say with this list, but probably more times than any movie on this list because I used to watch it on repeat, and that is Muppet Treasure Island. I love this movie. And to
Mhm.
this day, it's the movie that's ruined the Muppets for me. Every time they make a Muppet movie that isn't a genre piece based on a like 19th century novel,
Yeah.
I get super confused. Like, what are we even doing here? They made two of the best Muppet movies of all time, and they're not doing that ever again? Why? Like, it's so weird to me. Muppet Treasure Island is the funniest freaking movie in the world. The people who need to be super serious are. The people who need to be goofy as hell are. Everything works. The comedy works perfectly. Tim Curry, my
I'm a
guy.
professional pirate.
He is so delightful in this movie. I
The
love
only
him.
negative I have about this movie is that we did not get enough Tim Curry musical numbers in this movie.
So so many.
I could have used like a good one, two other ones, and it would have been perfect.
He is delightful in this movie. I The whole cabin fever bit in the middle where they go nuts.
We've
I
got cabin
love
fever.
the dead Tom runner.
That is one of
Tom's
the.
dead. Long John shot him. Dead Tom was always dead. All right. And he just tosses the body.
Oh my god, the roll call on
Oh,
the ship.
big fat buck tooth baby eating O'Brien. It's this beautiful
Oh
redhead.
yeah.
I.
It's like, who put this crew together?
It's the man that lives in my finger.
Are you trying to say that your finger hired the crew? No, silly.
No, that
The
would be
man who lives inside my finger hired the crew.
that would be ridiculous. My wife and I constantly are going Jim Jim Jimmy Jim 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 Jim,
Oh,
and then I'm constantly doing whenever something at my work, a big deal at work is safety, which makes sense. There's a whole area laboratory on my building that works with volatile chemicals, so safety is a big deal. But whenever they have an email, I always think of Samuel going, and it turns out it was incredibly unsafe. And then you see Long John sinking in the lifeboat.
yes. Oh,
I'm constantly
Sam
quoting
the
that at
Eagle
work.
as Mr. Errol is
Oh,
just
so good.
chef's kiss. The whole entire cast, who they cast, everybody. Statler Waldorf as like
As the ship's
ship.
mast,
Yeah,
whatever it is, the thing on the front.
yeah. The music numbers are great. The beginning, It's Billy Connolly.
Yeah, Billy
We're on
Connolly.
the spot.
The
And
red spot.
just, oh, Billy Bones.
Obviously, you are a little girl, so I know that you are lying.
And then was it Jennifer Saunders? Just like
Yes.
she just bricks through a brick wall and just like, what? How does
She
she
was
do
taking over
that?
for Miss Piggy because Miss Piggy doesn't show up until 3/4 of the way in. Boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka,
Chakalaka.
boom, shakalaka.
And they somehow fit the Swedish Chef in here.
Oh my god. He
Hurdy,
was a pig.
hurdy, hurdy. But oh man. And even like the beginning, the song that's playing during like the super serious like burying the treasure, that's
Yeah,
a banger.
it is. And it's like Pirates of the Caribbean vibes throughout this movie.
Before Pirates.
6 years before Pirates of the Caribbean came out. Like, oh my god. And that let's see Jack Sparrow in a freaking Muppet movie. Come on, people. We need the Muppets to go back to the genre book.
Yep. One of
Take
my favorite
movies.
memes that I've seen recently is Michael Caine was so great in Muppet Christmas Carol because he treated the Muppets like actors. And then Tim Curry was so great in Treasure Island because he was a Muppet.
He
So
treated the Muppets like equals. Yes.
yes,
I saw that. It's perfect. Oh, I love it. Because
it's true.
It's so true. Oh,
So
it's so great.
my honorable mentions, we got Scream, which love Scream. And probably the only person that would have this on their list is Hamlet from Kenneth Branagh and all 4 hours of it, which
That's
I
on
love
my list of shame still.
every second of it. Obviously, it's a commitment.
Yeah, well, yeah.
the acting is just like off the charts. And seeing Brian Blessed, aka Boss Nass, be the ghost of Hamlet's father is one of the coolest things.
Well, now I kind of want to watch it even more.
Yes, there you go. And no, and for the record, this is not the Mel Gibson Hamlet where he totally wants to bang his mom. So there you go. But my number one, surprise, surprise, Coen Brothers are back because it's Fargo time, which also should have won Best Picture in 1996. Thanks, The English Patient.
Oh, I've never seen The English Patient, and even I know that's a bad call.
Just, this is so darkly funny. I remember my brother watched this back when I was in high school, and then he talked in that accent for a month.
Oh, jeez.
It's like, oh, did you go down to the Gopher game there? It's like, well, we got some Arby's. And just like, the accents are fantastic. Yeah, betcha, yeah. Frances McDormand is so good.
Yeah, she is.
She deserved that Oscar so much as Marge. Hey, Margie. It's like, I don't really agree with your police work there. I think DLR, dealer plates, and it's so smart too, and it's so awkwardly violent, just like
it is.
Brothers movie should be. It's like, I'm guessing that was your accomplice back there in the wood chipper there. Just, it's dark. It has so much to say. William H. Macy is such a scumbag. Slimy man. Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare together. It's like, I want to get a house of pancakes. Come on, man. I want to have like a steak or something. Just a stare of murder. And the last thing I'm going to quote is like, funny looking. So, well, how funny looking? Like, it was like weird face. I was like, funny looking. And also, side note, the show Fargo.
I was just gonna say, the show ruined the movie for me because I saw the show first. And so when I saw the movie, I was like, oh, that wasn't as good as the show. I feel like a bad movie fan now. Like,
I disagree, Gary. I disagree. But that show is great. Season 2 of Fargo, I think, might be one of my favorite seasons of television ever.
oh, season 1 for me. It's up there as one of my favorites of all time. But yeah, season 2 was really good until
And
that ending.
Kansas.
That ending got real weird. Yeah,
Aliens.
aliens. Aliens.
Aliens.
Okay. Which is weird because it was like, I know that they're saying it's not set in the, like, they're not set in the same universe, but that one was.
Well, no,
Because it
it
was a
is.
prequel.
Well,
Oh, they all the seasons are?
because Oliver
Okay.
Platt's character got his money to do his startup because he found the money buried from the movie. Was that season 1 or season 2?
He found the money in season 1.
Yeah.
Season 2
And
was the season 2
yeah,
was the flashback where the old dad sheriff was
yeah,
Patrick Wilson.
yes. And also we got Bruce Campbell as Ronald Reagan.
I need to
Randomly.
catch up on that show. I only saw the first 3 seasons and then I stopped because we cut cable. But now that it's all on Hulu, I really need to go back.
The 5th one's coming out soon. I'm pretty excited about it. Alrighty. 1995.
1995 is, I mean, there was no contest. There's like my pick and every other movie is like down here. Like there's like I'd be really surprised if we have different ones, but it was a great year. Apollo 13 and Get Shorty were my 2 big honorable mentions. I really enjoyed both of those. But unfortunately, Tom Hanks beat out Tom Hanks because Toy Story is my number 1 of that year. It is just such a great movie. Although, funny enough, Toy Story 2 is my favorite of the Toy Story franchise. And that one didn't make number 1 that year because 99 stacked year. This one, though, it really did. It started a revolution in animation. And every movie tried to look like Toy Story for the next 25 years. It's only been actually just like a couple years ago that they started to actually go stray off and try other things. But just it's a timeless story now. Like, it's so weird because I remember seeing it in the theater for the first time. My parents took us. My brother yelled out in the middle of the thing, "I have that toy," because he was like, God, 98. He was like 8 years old at the time, so like he was real little. Like we fell in love with this movie immediately, and just it's endlessly quotable. It's meme to death. It kicked off a franchise. It literally put Pixar on the map. It's one of the best movies of all time.
I just recently rewatched Castaway this past weekend for my movie club, and every time Tom Hanks is like yelling or getting excited, I can't not think it's Woody.
You are a toy, Wilson.
It's just like, I'm Mrs. Nesbit.
That was Tim Allen.
Now I'm just going through.
No, I know.
But no, it's just
the hat looked good. Tell me the hat looked good. The apron was a bit much, but the hat looked good.
Tim Allen was big in the 90s. The Santa
the
Claus,
height of his powers. Oh my gosh.
Huh? Just
there was a Binford toolbox in Toy Story that kept him trapped in the cage in Sid's house. Like,
just the cast is amazing. Don Rickles in a kids movie is something else.
Pushing the envelope, Don, even as Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah. Wallace Shawn.
Wallace Shawn's great.
Jim Varney.
Yep. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Just it's iconic at this point. Like, the whole entire movie from start to finish is so memorable. It is so perfect. Secret Life of Pets is completely ripping off the whole entire plot.
The whole movie.
Terrible. So annoying. But
How
like,
dare you invoke that terrible movie's name while talking about Toy Story? You monster.
monster.
You are a sad and strange little man, and
Man,
you have my pity.
my wife quoted that the other day. I think related to my cat, Murphy.
There you go.
So, but it's one of those things where it's just like, it's hard not to think about animation and Pixar at this point, and it all started with Toy Story. I got to see that at God. I saw that at a double feature drive-in with War with Grandpa back during COVID, and I'm like,
That's a pair.
and they made you watch War with Grandpa first.
Of course they did.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. Because otherwise everyone would have left after Toy Story.
Yep, just gone, goodbye. But it's hard to argue with Toy Story just being so iconic. Okay, so this isn't one of my specific honorable mentions because I'm my 2 or 3. GoldenEye shaped my life as a kid, and the fact that I've watched James Bond movies so many times since then, and playing that game just something special too. My actual honorable mentions. Speaking of Don Rickles, Casino.
There you go.
Love Casino. I just heard like some behind the scenes. Apparently, Don Rickles would give Robert De Niro shit all the time on set. He just like, oh, that's how you're gonna do it. You call that acting?
Well, I guess if anybody could do it to De Niro.
And he's saying this to Robert De Niro.
Oh my god.
It's just because Don Rickles doesn't talk much in the actual movie. He's in the background a lot, but apparently he made his voice heard. I'm a huge fan of Casino, and I love that movie a lot more than I think a lot of people do. Braveheart is my other honorable mention. Do I care how historically inaccurate it is? Nope. Doesn't matter.
Nope.
Not at all. But my number 1, which I know, Adam, if you're watching, you'll appreciate this, 12 Monkeys.
Oh, I love 12 Monkeys.
Big Terry Gilliam fan. This is an experience.
Yeah, it is.
Time travel in such an interesting and unique way. Bruce Willis, caring. So that's like Willis, right up there.
You know, it's really funny. I've been talking to people about Bruce Willis a lot for some reason lately, and it just keeps coming up, like movie after movie that he did. Like, he's a really good actor when he tries to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. And this one is a definite 100% all the way through.
Brad Pitt. Just this whole entire movie is so great. And just this, nothing else feels like a Terry Gilliam film. You sit there and you're watching a movie, it's like, you know, this is Terry Gilliam. And you know, like the whole entire movie, like the music just feels like that guy cranking that box with the monkey on top of it the whole entire time, right out of a creepy carnival. And the way that all comes together is shocking and just mind-blowing. And it's just one of those kinds of films that I watched it for the first time and never forgot it.
Yeah, same. It was one of the first movies that I saw in college because my buddy had a sleeve full of DVDs, both purchased and digitally acquired. And he's like, just take them and watch whatever you want. And I'm like, okay. And that was one of the first ones because I liked Bruce Willis. So I watched 12 Monkeys and I just remember, like, what is going on this movie? It's so weird. And like later on, I've seen a few other Terry Gilliam movies and his style is a little much for me. But like, for some reason, it just really hits
that
particular movie.
The Fisher King are probably 2 of the most accessible, and it made sense they came out around the same time. Because like anything that you watch of him from the 80s is still like full blown. I was in Monty Python making all those weird animated sections. Just like, you want to see that live action? Yeah, look at it. And it's just like, what is going on here? Am I on drugs? Is this what drugs
And the answer is yes. He really wanted to bring us a drug trip without actually doing the drugs ourselves.
And then he finally made Fear and Loathing and fully accomplished that. I was just like, we're in backcountry. I do not like that movie. Just to throw that out there. That's like the one Terry Gilliam film. Like, nope, I'm good. Oh, 1994. What a year for movies.
What a year for movies, indeed. I mean, I couldn't not put Star Trek Generations in my honorable mentions. That one has a dear spot in my heart, and I am one of probably the few people who look at it fondly and go, "Oh, it's all right. It's not that bad."
I've only seen out of like the pre JJ Abrams ones, obviously, I've only seen the first two, the motion picture and Con. I'm just gonna say one word and you can nod yes. Bridge? Falling?
Oh,
Is that this one?
Yeah, this is the one where the Enterprise crashes onto the planet. So, yeah, no, that one's they filmed it back to back with the finale of The Next Generation. And so because they filmed it so close together, apparently they wanted to do a different story. And the people were thinking that the finale would be a movie, because the finale of TNG is actually better than Generations, like 100% all the way. But they were like, well, how do we make this TV show look cinematic? Turn all the lights off. It was super dark in every scene because like no one, apparently the lighting went out on the Enterprise that day and they just didn't get it fixed. But
maybe they should have got the cinematographer for my pick, but we'll get to that in a minute.
It was a wild movie, but yes, only an honorable mention. But it is like one of my, it's in higher on my top 10 list than it should be. Two movies that I only just saw one time, but I could tell you right now, Hudsucker Proxy is already making its way up into my top 10, and I really want to watch that movie again. If only I could find a copy of it on DVD that isn't a freaking $35 copy. So there's that. And I can tell you right now, Quiz Show will one day be my favorite movie from this year, because I loved it the first time I saw it, but I've only ever seen it the one time. And I just know the more I see it, the more it's going to creep in there. But my number one is Clerks. I adore this film. I'm not even supposed to be here today. His job would be great if it wasn't for the customers. These are all things that I have said on repeat at every job I've ever had in my entire life. What do you mean there's no ice? I gotta drink this coffee hot? It completely nails what it's like to work in retail, and I absolutely love it because that was the first 10 years of my working career. It nails it. Kevin Smith is so smart and so funny, and I'm glad he got to finish off the trilogy and make something that feels genuine to this universe, because Clerks 2 is a departure, a hilarious departure, but quite a departure from the original. And so to see him kind of get back to the roots in Clerks 3 was great. But yeah, it all started with Clerks, and it's just freaking 37
what number was
in a row?
Row? Oh, I literally just rewatched this.
Oh, nice.
The other weekend and 2 weekends ago, and it's so great. It's one of the best independent films that you're ever gonna find. New Jersey, Pride. This is from the mythical Central Jersey, which is now officially actually part of New Jersey, except they screwed up and made Monmouth County South Jersey. So apparently this is a South Jersey movie. I'm like, you're wrong. But like, just Kevin Smith is so genuine with this, and I hate Dante. I hate Dante so much. The character.
He's kind of an asshole.
But I love Randall.
Yeah.
Randall is an asshole, but
He is definitely, but he
yes,
knows it and he owns it. That's the
he
difference.
sure does.
Dante thinks he's a hero.
Yeah.
Did you ever
Oh,
watch the animated series?
I have not.
Oh, that is a treat. I tell you, it's not long, and I'll tell you right now, the second episode is a clip show.
Oh my god.
They had two episodes, so they essentially just clip showed the first episode as the second episode.
Oh
And
my
it's
god.
so funny. It's be so before its time. I can't believe they even made it.
Uh, I I love Clerks too. That's one of the
I
if
do
I need
too.
a good laugh, I'm putting that movie in. Honey, you can't taste racism. And just like
The porch monkey comment. My grandmother used to call me that all the time. Come to think of it, my grandma was kind of racist.
oh my god. Taking it back.
Taking it back.
Just and then just everything. But I really enjoyed Clerks 3. It was the first movie in years that Kevin Smith actually made that felt like a Kevin Smith movie.
It did. I'm holding out. I've been wanting to buy it because they keep dropping the price. It's like $12 now. But I'm like, no, because if I wait a little longer, they might put out a 3-pack on Blu-ray and I can get all three because the Criterion for Clerks is like so expensive. I don't want to spend that money on it, but I
There
kind
you
of
go.
want it too.
So 94, like I have a lot of movies that I love from this year. My honorable mentions though, Lion King. Just it's
Understandable.
one of the best Disney films. Number two, Pulp Fiction,
Yeah.
which I think people will be upset that that's not number one, but I can't. For me, I can't vote against the Shawshank Redemption.
I was just gonna say there's one other movie that we haven't talked about yet that I feel really bad for not having been mentioned.
And it's the Deakins of it all. Roger Deakins has shot three of the movies that I've had at number one so far. It's such a beautiful film.
He's really good at what he does.
Yes, sure is. Um, it's just the way that it captures the spirit of Stephen King's writing. Because if you want to adapt a Stephen King novel, you ask two people, Frank Darabont and
Yeah.
Mike Flanagan. So if it's not one of those two people, don't do it. So there you go, you're warned. But like Tim Robbins is great, but Morgan Freeman just as red, it's
Those
like, I
two,
guess it's
there's a 1-2
because
punch.
I'm Irish. Which the funny thing is, like, he is actually Irish in the story, which is why that line makes sense, but it's so good in the movie. Um, and just the whole supporting cast, Clancy Brown as
Yeah.
the head guard. Oh,
The
and
guy who plays the warden. I can't. I never. He's a famous that guy. He was in
yep,
everything.
Ace Ventura when nature calls. He is a great character actor though. But Brooks was here devastated. And it's just like emotionally devastated. And that one sniper scene is like that. Oh my god, this movie has some gut punches, some real gut punches, and yet it is so uplifting, and also has one of the best holy shit moments in movies where he just chucks that pebble and it keeps going, and you're just like. And that night, Andy Dufresne escaped from Shawshank Prison, and just like, oh my god, it's so good. This movie did deserve all that attention, and why this is like what still is this still the number one movie on IMDb, or at
Oh,
least
probably.
yeah.
I'd be so surprised if it wasn't.
It's
It's
just
one of those movies that if we had a time machine, I really think it would have won all the awards. It would like. There's no way. There's no way. Like it got overlooked. Morgan Freeman told a little funny anecdote about it. He's like, it bombed at the box office because it had the dumbest name ever. Like nobody knew what it was. Oh yeah, I saw that prison movie with the Shawshank.
Show us
It's like, yeah, like people wanted to see it, but they just didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it was called. Now everyone knows it because they reran it on TNT for 35 years straight.
Yes.
Like with occasional, Rizzoli and Isles playing in between. Like it was ridiculous. Like every weekend I turn the TV on and freaking Shawshank's on. And I've seen that movie probably 4 dozen times completely out of order. I've only ever seen the movie from start to finish once, but I've probably seen the movie 20 times at this point, but just never in order.
Yep, there you go.
So weird. Thanks, cable.
Cable. Well, we're making our way downtown. It's 1993.
I will be so surprised if we don't have the same one here. But my first honorable mention is Groundhog Day. I love Groundhog Day. It is
That's mine
so
too.
funny. It's so funny. And my first honorable mention is Groundhog Day. I love Groundhog Day. It's so funny. And my first honorable mention is Groundhog Day. I love Groundhog Day. All right, rule of threes. Phil Connors. No, but my father was a piano mover, so I just it's so filled with amazing humor all throughout. I remember it really messed my brother up, the whole deaths montage that he goes through, like because this came out in 93, so we probably saw it in 94, so he was 6. It really bugged it, like it really freaked him out. It was funny, but like it's one of those movies that sticks with you, and I had fond memories of it growing up because it was on occasionally, but then like it really hit. I watched it again in college and I was just like fell in love. This movie is just so perfect. It's a tradition in the house to watch it every year, but that's not my number one, so why are we still talking about it? My other honorable mention is Nightmare Before Christmas, and I struggled to not put this one at number one. And the only reason I didn't is because at the end of the day, Jurassic Park is by far the best movie of that year. I will not be taking notes. That is hands down. It was movie perfection. It's probably the best movie of the entire 90s decade. At least that for me. I cannot.
It is a valid argument.
It's up there. It's one of them. It's definitely one of them. And I mean, the only other ones I can think of that might have another fighting chance is also Spielberg's. So it's a battle of Spielberg's in that decade because he nailed it.
Are you talking about Schindler's List that came out the same year, or Saving Private Ryan that came out 5 years later?
Yes, I'm talking about both. Because holy crap, he knows how to tell a story. He knows how to make it exciting. He knows how to be creative with technological disadvantages as well as advantages. Like the CGI in this movie in 1993 is still a rival to movies coming out today. It's insane how good that stuff looks. And it never got a freaking special edition Star Wars update where they went back in and redid all the anime. No, it's when you watch it, it's still the same CGI they made in 93, and it's beautiful. And it's a perfect movie. It's a perfect movie. Steven Spielberg, man, he was so preoccupied with whether or not he could, he didn't stop to think if he should, and I'm so glad for it.
Yep. And that's the thing about this film is it isn't just like a genre film with a lot of great dinosaurs and effects. It has great characters and it has so much to say.
Yeah, it does.
Specifically, Jeff Goldblum has so much to say. And like Ian Malcolm just like, chaos theory. And just like, and just that moment. Him
See,
or
it's just
dirt.
a little drop of water right here, and it goes
Yeah,
down on your hand. And
yeah.
we threw it down there. Oh, it goes a different way. Look at what a different way. Why did it go a different way? That's chaos theory.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is
That is one giant pile of shit.
must go
It's
faster. Must go
much go
faster.
faster. Everybody, like Samuel L. Jackson's a random computer guy. Mr. Arnold's just like, hold on to your butts.
A
And
quote that is endlessly used in our car to this day.
Wayne Knight and just
Oh,
like
please! I hate this hacker crap.
Muldoon. Clever
Yes.
girl.
Oh my gosh. They remember.
He's the most iconic canvas shorts you're ever gonna find on anybody in any movie ever. And just Richard Attenborough.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, welcome to Jurassic Park.
When he's telling the story of the flea circus, it's just like, oh, but oh no.
Yes.
It's like, I see where you were going with this, but you do realize.
And just the music's so iconic. My wife had us walk into our reception to the Jurassic Park theme.
That's
And
awesome.
she also loves the recorder version video that's on the internet, which is one of the funniest things you'll probably find on the internet.
Yeah, I love that one too. That one's one of those ones where every time we come across it, me and my wife will text it back and forth to each other,
Yeah.
and it'd be like, "Didn't you already send me this?" Yes, it's still funny.
Yeah. Isn't that what marriage is? Just sending the
much.
same videos that's like, you remind me of this. And so like, why? But since you already said Groundhog Days, I don't mention, I'm just throwing out there with The Fugitive too, because I love that movie. And they do not make mature adult thrillers like this anymore.
They really don't. It's disappointing.
You need to find that guy who killed my wife, the man with the one arm, and just Harrison Ford angrily pointing at people, and Tommy Lee Jones not caring. Just
Tommy Lee Jones, he needs a hard target search of every outhouse, hen house.
Yes. Just so
I don't care.
I don't care. But Jurassic Park is actually my number 2 because my number 1 is Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yay! We get to talk about it because I love it.
I watch it literally every single Halloween season and maybe Christmas season too.
I was gonna say just once.
But just once.
It's been on at least 3 times since September 1st in this house. Because September 1st is when Halloween season starts, just so you know.
Oh, my wife's been asking, like, when do you want to put these up in the window, like the Halloween decorations? I'm just like, you want to just put them up now. Just do it. Stop asking me.
It's been a tradition for several years now. Because my wife loves fall so much, and Halloween is our favorite joint holiday that we love doing. So for the last several years now, on her birthday, which is the end of August, I decorate the house for Halloween.
There you go. Very nice.
Since August 23rd, it's been Halloween in my house.
Yep. All the music is so great.
I love it.
Danny Elfman, and just with his score and everything, and like my favorite Disney song, because yes, this is a Disney movie, is Oogie Boogie song. I just love that I just love that song so much. But every song in this is it's like
mine's Jack's Lament. I love Jack's Lament so much.
So good. And
wonderful.
Just the stop motion of it all. And Henry Selick, who directed this movie, not Tim Burton. Please give this man some credit. Thank you. Is just absolutely one of the most amazing feats of animation ever. Like, I cannot even imagine going through all of this to put all the stop motion together. And obviously, like, Leica has it down to like a system at this point. But like, this is something that just was so unprecedented. And it's so iconic. I'm pretty sure Hot Topic wouldn't be a store
Not any, no.
For Nightmare
They would have
Before
gone under
Christmas.
years ago if they didn't realize that this was a cash cow.
Yes.
But I mean, it really disappeared for a while. I remember seeing it in the theaters, and I remember getting it on VHS and watching it a bunch, but then I remember it fading away. And it wasn't until I think they did a 3D re-release when I was in college. And my wife was like, I've never seen that movie. And I'm like, you've never seen, we're going. And we went and saw it in 3D and she hated it. She's like, I don't like this movie at all. But over the years, she said to me this year, she goes, I really do love The Nightmare Before Christmas now. I'm like, it took about 15 years, but we finally made it.
There you go. A special day for a special film. Okay, we only have 3 more years left. It's time for 1992, and I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, I was gonna say this year is the year that I could quote the movie from start to finish. But we have to give honorable mention to A Few Good Men and My Cousin Vinny, and my now second favorite Disney animated movie of all time, Aladdin. Those 3 movies are so great. I saw Aladdin. I was like, so what? I was 7 when this movie came out. I was champing at the bit to get to this movie. Remember when the old trailers on TV would be like, coming soon to a theater near you.
Yeah.
My family made fun of me endlessly because I used to say, it's coming to a theater near us. We can go see it. I couldn't wait. Aladdin was my jam. My Cousin Vinny I saw probably earlier than I should have, but like because of that, I love it so much. And A Few Good Men has been creeping up that list because it's just one of those
These
great
2
ones.
Utes. To
The
what?
Utes. What did you say? The Utes.
The Utes.
You use instant grits? No self-respecting Southerner would use instant grits. Oh, I was just confused because you said it was this amount of time, but there's no way.
Do the laws of physics not exist within the confines of your kitchen?
Yeah, right. Love it. He's so good in that movie. Oh, so good. But my favorite movie is A Muppet's Christmas Carol because Muppets, baby, I love them. And this is our Christmas Eve movie. Ever since I was a kid and it came out, we saw it in theaters and we got it on VHS and we watched it every year at Christmas on Christmas Eve. And we were usually all asleep by the end of the love song. And then we usually woke up somewhere around It Feels Like Christmas. And then we watched the rest of the movie. But but then I was also the most upset when they took it out. And they're like, nobody likes this song, so we're cutting it from the movie, and we all rioted. We were like, you monsters. I love A Muppet's Christmas Carol. It is so much fun. It's hilarious. Michael Caine is perfect. He's my absolute favorite Scrooge of all time. You can't even tell me otherwise that there's a better Scrooge than Michael Caine. And part of it is because he is playing it so straight. He is treating the Muppets like they are fellow actors in this, and he's giving them exactly the respect they deserve. He's sitting in a room with a bunch of rats doing the luau because of the heat wave. And how would the bookkeeping staff like to be unemployed?
We're doing an island
so
in
perfect.
the sun.
I love it. He's so amazing, and like his arc through the story is the best I've ever seen a Scrooge arc be, because like some Scrooges are more gruff that by the time they get to the end they don't melt enough to make you like really go, oh, he's a good guy now. It's kind of like, oh, he's just less of a butthole now.
Yeah.
And Michael Caine really, like, he's able to do that switch so much more believably. And I don't know if it's because it's with Muppets or what, but and then the whole conceit that Gonzo and Rizzo are telling the story, but also in the story is just so funny. When Rizzo forgets his jelly beans and goes through the bars after making a big deal, when Gonzo goes, I'm omniscient. I'm omniscient. I know everything. And he goes, okay, well, what's going? He's like, to conduct a further search, Scrooge was forced to light the lamps, and he's like, what? How does he do it?
Their dynamic is so good in this.
It
The
is.
Marleys were dead to begin with. It's just like, well, that's a wonderful way to start the story.
It's the 1992 version of who starts this conversation like that.
So I've watched this every single Christmas season, sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas with my mom, every year that I can remember, except for 2020. And
Well,
yeah, and this is it has to happen. It is so special. This movie is so special to me. I regularly just listen to Marley and Marley.
love it.
Just he's like, look at them with their frostbitten teddy bears.
Oh.
We're Marley.
Does it bug you? Does it bug you that the soundtrack version is different from the in movie version because they cut out the talking parts? Because it bugs the hell out of me.
It just like should have left it how it was, and just like Michael Caine and his dancing. It so just good. It's so good, and everybody's so great in this, and just like it was frivolous, it was stupid, it was pointless, it was short.
I loved it. No! Oh, I love it when Piggy gut checks Kermit into the wall to go on, and I will lift your pavement.
I just this is such a small moment, but I love it so much because Sam the Eagle is my favorite Muppet, and he's just like, oh, you go into the world of business. It's the American way,
Sam.
It's the British way.
And then he's like looking behind him, like, who the fuck was that?
Yes.
He's so funny.
Also, for the record, Ghost of Christmas Past is scarier than the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, because
God, that little baby,
whatever so the hell that is. But my favorite non-traditional Muppet is the Ghost of Christmas Present, because he is an absolute delight. I want to
no, I'm a large absent-minded spirit.
So, my honorable mentions are Reservoir Dogs, because got that Tarantino. The Muppet Christmas Carol, because my number one is Unforgiven. And this was, Clint Eastwood said, this is my last Western until El Macho came out. But like,
actors need to stop saying this is my last blank, because they are always
wrong. He did make like 30 years before he made another one.
Mm-hmm. It's a good run.
Making movies just blows my mind. This movie is one of the most interesting deconstructions of a genre I think I've ever seen in my life. And what this does to the Western and this revisionist look at all the mythology and everything is so great. It's so poignant. It's so interesting, especially coming from Clint Eastwood in that way. He held on to this script until he could age into playing Will Money, because he wanted to make this film so much. And boy, is this cat, like, this is a gray movie morally and just everything going on. And one of my favorite scenes in the history of cinema is when Will Money rides into town at the end. And just, this film has that scene, like, Clint Eastwood is a bad MFer at the end of this movie, and you're just like, oh no. And like, it isn't like a cool outlaw kind of thing. He is like a vengeful spirit coming in there, and it's him is like the way that he just like murks all of those guys by himself. And I love how the fact that like they're trying to shoot fast and everything and miss completely, because you know that's how guns actually were back then. which is interesting. And like he misfires, and just Gene Hackman just being like, misfire. And he chucks the gun at him. It's just like, that's how you do it. But there's two amazing lines in this film that just hit so hard for me. It's a funny thing taking a man's life, because you take everything he has and everything he's ever going to have. And you're just like, damn, that's uncomfortably poignant at
Yeah,
this
right.
moment. And at the end, where Gene Hackman's just like, I built a house. I didn't deserve this. Deserves got nothing to do with it. I'm just like, damn, Clint Eastwood's cold. And just this movie is, if this were like the end of the Western being a big part of cinema, what a Western. Because you still get Westerns today, but they're like more sporadic. This was like
Yeah.
the end of an era, and it really nailed it. So there you go. You should watch Unforgiven.
I've watched Unforgiven. That's all I'll say.
You don't like Unforgiven?
I did not care for it. No.
Well,
It was fine. I think I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd, which is essentially like it was all right, but I probably won't ever watch it again. But maybe you've convinced me to give it a second try.
to each their own. Here's the thing: if you go in this expecting to have like a fun Western, don't expect that. Just to give you a
No,
heads up.
I'm not a Western guy. Like there are some that I like, but like for the most part, I don't know. There's something about them. I just don't get into them. I like my Western set in space. Like
Space
I like
Westerns
I like my
in
space westerns
space.
with my brown coats and my shiny
Ah,
engineers.
there we go.
No,
Uh,
we'll talk about my favorite western in a couple rounds.
there we go. Well, to 1991, the year I was born. What a year.
1991, you youngin. I was 6 years old, and I did not see this movie until many years later. But my first honorable mention is Silence of the Lambs. My second honorable mention is Terminator 2, because I love both those movies. But there was nothing that could beat this one. This was my first Star Trek movie in the theaters, and that's Star Trek Six: The Undiscovered Country. I was 6 years old. My dad took me with him to see it.
Mm.
So like realistically, I was probably way too. Although I might have. No, yeah, I was 6. I was gonna say maybe I was turning 7. No, it was in December, so I was closer to 7 than 6, but still, I was 6 years old, and I remember that there was a trailer for the Crypt Keeper movie, which freaked me out. But after that, the movie was just pure magic for me. I love it. It's my favorite Star Trek movie to this day. And a large part of that is because I got to go see it in the theater with my dad. And it was a perfect closeout to the original series cast's movies. Growing up, all I had seen was the original series movies. I never really watched
Mm.
TOS. So I Wrath of Khan constantly watched it. Voyage Home, get out of here. The freaking whales. Oh my gosh, we watched that on repeat. So like to have Nicholas Meyer come back for Star Trek 6 and to like really push it as like a Sherlock Holmes style mystery with like crazy intrigue, with the Shakespeare references, the Klingons, Christopher Plummer, like just it's a perfect send off for this cast, and it's such a fun movie, and it builds so much great Star Trek lore too. Like
Mm.
this movie came out about halfway through the Next Generation's run, and that year they Leonard Nimoy appeared on the Next Generation in the two-parter Unification,
Mm.
which directly called back to this movie. And then DS9 started shortly after, and Voyager, and they both had references to the Khitomer Accords and the stuff that happened in this movie, to the point where in Voyager they even did a two-part, or was it a two-parter? I don't know if it was a two-part. they definitely did an episode where you got to see this movie from Captain Sulu's perspective on the Excelsior, because they retconned it so that Tuvok was actually on the Excelsior as an officer back in the movie. So like there's so much lore built around this particular movie that it's so great as a Star Trek fan to have it, but then just the fact that it's also one of the most well shot, well scored, just well acted for Shatner, especially. He's not known for being the best, but like everyone is so good in this movie, and it had to be my favorite.
There you go. Got to show that Star Trek love.
Exactly.
So my honorable mentions: one, another Coen Brothers film. This is probably I think the most overlooked and underappreciated Coen Brothers film, which is Barton Fink. Just
okay, I've seen that.
John Turturro, John Goodman, so good. John Goodman, so good.
That's the one where he's the writer, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a weird one.
It is a weird film, and boy, does it go to some dark places.
Yeah, it does.
My other honorable mention is one that has been my top Disney movie for my whole entire life, which is Beauty and the Beast. And love Belle. She loved to read. I loved that as a kid. And now I more like the Beast. So there you go. I love the music, the cast, Angela Lansbury, just amazing. I love Beauty and the Beast. But my number one, I mentioned before, I love science fiction. And I've actually been having an on and off argument with my best friend, Matt, since 2014.
Oh, jeez.
About what's better, The Matrix or T2 Judgment Day. And I'm the one who keeps arguing about Judgment Day, and everybody keeps saying now it's The Matrix, and now I feel like
I think I'm on your side.
Battle over time.
I will join you in this battle. It is definitely T2.
Oh, this is like, you took the first Terminator movie, which was great, from James Cameron, and James Cameron just knows how to make a sequel.
Yes, he does.
Alien.
Even when he's not the one who started it, he knows how to make a sequel.
Yeah. And just this film, the face turn by Arnold, perfection. Him getting saddled up to Bad to the Bone was so 1990s, just felt so right in so many ways. Linda Hamilton got ripped.
Yeah,
and was ready to mess some people up in this movie. Robert Patrick as a T-1000 is one of the coolest antagonists you're ever going to find in a movie. The action is so great. You feel it. Did Edward Furlong give a great performance? Did he go through puberty throughout this movie? One of those is a yes. So, but I even like Dyson, such an interesting character and performance that you get from that. It just, and it's so iconic. Hasta la vista, baby. Just like
Yep.
I have a sticker of that on my laptop of just the thumb sticking up from the molten metal, and it's just like
a few years ago there was a mildew stain in my shower, and through the glass I texted a picture to my wife. I go, the Terminator is dying in our shower stall. I think it's time to clean it.
Just, this is like, maybe except for what, Piranha's 3D or whatever, James Cameron has made a movie, and he's made some of the best movies of especially science fiction and action. Just,
we were saying earlier, Mephisto could say he signed a deal with him. Like, James Cameron had to have. It's unnatural how many times he has just crushed everything.
And why does every one of his movies make so much damn money?
$2 billion. He's just like, I need $2 billion. I'll make another movie. It doesn't matter what it's about.
I'll just keep making Avatar sequels for forever. Like, I swore Avatar 2 was not going to make money. It had been too long, nobody cared, and then everybody did.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is either going to be a repeat of what already happened, or it's going to be the biggest box office disaster of all time. And I could not believe that it did. I was banking on box office disaster because it just didn't make sense. It didn't. Nobody talks about Avatar. You talk to anybody about Avatar, they're like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that. It was really cool in 3D, but I don't think I've seen it since. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
And then everybody wants to see the second one too.
Let's see it.
So there you go.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
so insane.
We made it to 1990 and the end of this episode. But Nick, what do you got for 1990?
Well, 1990, I'm going to honorable mention the actual best Western of all time, and that's Back to the Future 3. I'm sorry.
It has ZZ Top in it. I agree.
It sure does.
There you go.
I mean, this could very well be the reason I don't like Westerns very much, because Back to the Future 3 ruined me for Westerns. I'm sorry, there's no time travel or ZZ Top in this movie. Why would I care? I really love how 2 led into 3, and it just, to me, it's just so much fun. It was almost my number one. Mm-hmm. My next honorable mention is The Hunt for Red October, because that is a movie that every time I watch it, I love it just a little bit more. And it wouldn't surprise me if after a few more times it does supplant my number one, but nostalgia and my love for this movie is just too great. My number one is the 1990 indie film, The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It is, for the longest time, it was the highest grossing indie of all time. It blows my mind to this day. Those costumes are legit. In 1990, I truly believe that 5 years old, that those were real freaking turtles.
There you go.
They looked so real. The eyes moved, the mouths moved, the way that I'm like, there's no way there's a person in a suit. Like, those are turtles. They're giant turtles. And then on top of the fact that they nailed the Jim Henson workshop, I mean, we shouldn't have expected anything less. But aside from the fact that they nailed the costumes, the movie itself is good. It's a good story. It takes the subject matter of giant turtles and a giant rat living in the sewers in New York. It takes it seriously. And it does it in a way that's also fun. Like, it has some of the funniest lines that I still quote to this day. Pizza dude's got 30 seconds. Do you like penicillin on your pizza? They are so funny, these four. And, like, honestly, up until this year, I don't think I've seen a turtle movie that I've liked as much. I mean, I've come around on Secret of the Ooze. I loved it as a kid, and then I saw it as an adult, and I was like, this isn't as good. But then I watched it again with my kids. There's so much cheesy nostalgia for the second one, and my kids love it. And it's like, okay, I guess it's not bad. Like, I can't hate too. It's not
WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash's Super Shredder, who kills himself. Who beats himself.
In 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds.
They were like, oh, we actually don't have a budget for this, so you're going to have to wrap it up.
Let's just sidestep here.
Yeah.
Walk off the docks.
That original movie, though, it's legit. It really is super good. And young Sam Rockwell, I'm like, infant Sam Rockwell. He was so young in this movie, and every time I see him in it, I'm just like, he has an Oscar now. Regular or menthol?
I do one quick thing about you said Hunt for Red October. He might be in house arrest now, but we do need to acknowledge that John McTiernan's one of the greatest action movie directors of all time, seeing as Hunt for Red October, Die Hard, and Predator.
Yep. he comes in, makes those 3 movies. He doesn't have to ever work again, and he will always be a Hall of Famer. Like,
and then gets in trouble for wiretapping his business partner, and just like, well, sorry.
Hey, we all got to do what we got to do, right?
Apparently. So one of my honorable mentions actually got me into a bit of a tiff on TikTok when I was told that my list sucked. When I did top 10 creature features, because I love Tremors. Tremors is amazing, and I love Tremors. Did I put it above Aliens? Yes, because I love Tremors. This is one of those movies I could watch over and over again. Do I own the whole collection? Yes, even through Shrieker Island. Yes, I do.
Even the made-for-TV movies.
The last 3 of them were all like straight to VOD. So
yeah, they were.
And did 2 of them have Jamie Kennedy in it? Yeah. Could they not even convince him to come back for the 7th one? Yeah. So they replaced him with John Heater. So yeah.
Well, by the 7th one, Jamie Kennedy was making that good Scream money, so he didn't need Tremors anymore.
Oh, but I love that first Tremors. Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, Michael Gross, Reba McEntire, and just everybody else in Rejection Valley, Nevada. And those graboids look so good. Like those practical effects and everything, incredible. Yeah, did it look like just a bump across the sand? Yeah, what of it? My other honorable mention, Home Alone, because I love this movie. Honestly, this movie deserves the spot solely because of John Candy and the $15 he got paid to show up for the handful of scenes in this movie where he looked like there was like legit acting on
he did it. He pulled his weight.
Yeah, and just this, well, this is a good year for Joe Pesci, and we're going to talk about something in a minute. But Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern as the Wet Bandits, just so good. But my number one,
you're sick, Marv.
You're sick, Marv. all my life, I just wanted to be a gangster.
Yeah,
and so might be biased here, but as a good paisan from New Jersey. It's you kind of have to take the fact that most things Italian American related in movies are going to be mob movies.
It's our way. What did I left off of my honorable mentions? My Blue Heaven from one of the whichever year it came out. I was like, ooh, that one should be on that should definitely be on the list.
It's just one of those things where you just like, you know what? It's better than Jersey Shore. Is it sad that I'd rather have Italian Americans depicted as mobsters than
absolutely. Because we don't need to talk about them. No.
But
excommunicado.
Yeah. When I highlighted Scorsese on my Welcome to the Wasteland show, I did not expect to just get this unbelievable just change of perspective on what it feels like to have representation and being understood. Like the way that he incorporated Roman Catholicism and that Catholic guilt in so many of his films is just like,
he does
God,
that.
It's real. It's so real. And just the authenticity of, even just the prison scene in Goodfellas. It's just like, they got to have the good food, though. And just like chopping garlic with a razor. And just like, you got to get that like perfect garlic. But this cast, I don't think Ray Liotta was ever better than in Goodfellas. This is like his film. Joe Pesci just winning that Oscar, dropping like a 1-sentence acceptance speech and walking away. For Tommy DeVito's one of the scariest characters you're gonna find in a movie. But you know what's even more terrifying? Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Because he's not gonna snap at you, but he's gonna get you. Paul Sorvino, just everybody in this. And Lorraine Bracco too is so good. And this is one of the few times where like Scorsese actually gives space for a woman to have like a big meaningful role in one of his movies. It's very
I
Italian.
don't know. I thought Margot Robbie got a pretty sizable role.
What it took her what another
Took another 20 years to do it, but why not?
yes. It was just casually 23 years later or something.
Right.
You know, it's fine.
Yeah.
But
Hey, at least he's doing it every now and then.
well, actually, which is interesting, talking about Killers of the Flower Moon, like
Oh yeah,
basically the main character is Lily Gladstone's character, except they're not going to tell you that until you watch the movie because they got to sell
oh,
it
she's
with
100% the main character.
they
Yeah.
got to sell it with DiCaprio first.
Yeah.
But just Goodfellas, I was adverse to Scorsese when I first watched his films when I was in high school. I'm just like, this is just a bunch of Italian people yelling the F word at each other. Which it
Yes,
is.
and
But it's so much more than that. And this is such an indictment on just this like myth that's around like being a mobster and stuff like that. Even up to the very end, it's like, yeah, I meet where I go and find pasta meat sauce, it's just egg noodles and ketchup. And just like that whole entire thing at the end, it's just like, yeah, this is not graceful. And then you watch The Irishman, and then you really know how that kind of life ends
right?
alone in a nursing home.
If
But
you're lucky,
you're lucky,
alone in the nursing home.
nursing home. But it's just this is one of the most iconic mob movies ever made, and it's definitely one of Scorsese's best. And how the hell he's still making movies like he does at 3.5 hours a pop?
Yeah.
There you
My
go.
goodness. I saw that runtime for Killers of the Flower Moon and I suddenly lost about 15% interest. And I was like, oh, really?
Hey,
I
he's got to
don't
do
know.
go
That's
big
a
for his
long
first
movie.
Western.
It's the good thing I got that A-list because I'm just like, hey, guys, I'm gonna go see the first half tonight and I'm gonna come back tomorrow and finish.
Or you can just wait till it's on Apple because it's an Apple
No, I can't do that. I gotta go see on the big screen.
and have AMC contribute $10 twice
Yeah, there you
to
go.
Paramount and Apple. There you go. But you know what? That's a wrap on the 1990s and our trip through the
90s
90s.
over.
And next
Wow.
time, if you can count, you'll know we're going to the 80s. So
This
there
might be
you
the
go.
hardest decade for me because all of my favorite movies are from the 80s. I don't
This
know.
is
Sophie's Choice.
I'm looking at my list. So I'm just like, this is gonna be a fun
It's gonna
time.
be there's like 4 years where my favorite like the top 20 movies on my list are like my favorite movies of all time.
There
So
you go.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. This is gonna be a tough one.
Well, you'll have to tune in next time to find out how much of a tough one it is for Nick. But Nick, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.